If you can spot these mistakes, your English is excellent and you can take your exam tomorrow. Now, I specially chosen mistakes that cost students a lot of points, and if you can avoid making these mistakes in your exam, you'll do brilliantly. Now, if you're new here, my name is Arturs. I moved to the UK in 2010 and I passed my IELTS and also studied at one of the UK's universities. So now I want to help you to prepare for your exam. So let's get started. Let's take a look at our first sentence. Firstly, public transport is cheaper. Secondly, private cars are more convenient. Now, what is wrong with this sentence? Try to figure out yourself. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. So let's take a look at what's going on here. So in the first sentence, we talk about public transport, and in the second sentence, we talk about private cars. Now, we also say that public transport is cheaper, so we use the comparison. So because cheap has only one syllable, to make a comparative, we simply need to add ER at the end. So cheaper, strong, stronger, high, higher, low, lower. Now, in the second sentence, we say that private cars are more convenient. And again, more convenient is also a comparative adjective, but it looks a bit different than the first one. Okay, and this is because convenient has multiple syllables. It has 3 syllables. Convenient, convenient. And so when adjective has multiple syllables, we simply add more to make a comparative. For example, words like important become more important, or beneficial becomes more beneficial. Okay? Now, everything is correct, but look at these words, firstly and secondly. Now, these are sequencing markers. They're part of the sequencing language. And we use sequencing language when we talk about priorities, or when we try to explain processes or consequences. So we're basically giving a number that this happens first and this happens second. Now, the thing is here though, is that we're not, those two forms of transport are not in a sequence. They are happening at the same time. So we don't need sequencing language. Instead, we need to use a comparative language, because again, we're comparing public transport advantage with private cars advantage. So if I were to correct this, I would simply say, I would remove these two words because we don't need them, and I would simply add while. And that would be a single sentence. While public transport, you don't need comma after while public transport is cheaper, comma, private cars are more convenient. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Here's our second example, and if you struggled with the first one, I hope that you will get this one, because this one is exactly the opposite of our first example. So the timer starts now. Okay, so what is wrong with this sentence? Let's take a look. The government should identify the problem. Despite this, they need to allocate funding. On the contrary, they must implement solutions. It sounds a bit off, right? So when we look at these three sentences, the government should identify the problem, they need to allocate funding, they must implement solutions. So to me, it feels like it's step 1, step 2, step 3. So it's a process. And from the previous example, we know that for processes, we need to use sequencing language. But in this case, we use comparative markers, which doesn't really fit there because they disrupt that natural flow. So how can we improve this? So we need to get rid of these two and say that begin with firstly, then secondly, and then we can say finally. So now everything goes in order. 1, 2, 3. Firstly, the government should identify the problem. Secondly, they need to allocate funding. And finally, they must implement solutions. That's it. So I hope you get this right. Now let's talk about data. I love data because remember, I have a degree in marketing. Now, car ownership throughout the period increased from 65% to 78%. Now, the key thing is here. So this chart gives you a clue of why this sentence is incorrect. So again, you got 30 seconds to tell me why this sentence is not correct. Now let's take a look what's going on here. Now, car ownership, I didn't include it here in the chart, but sorry, that's my bad. Okay, increased from 65% to 78. 65, 78 percentage, okay, there was an increase. Yeah, that's all correct. Now, the issues here, throughout the period. When we say throughout the period, that means that there was an increase at every stage during that period. So we're basically, when we say this, we basically mean that the growth was like that. But we don't have this data in here because we only have snapshots of 2010 and 2022. So it could have gone like this. We don't know this. So, and you can lose points for using this phrase, even though that's an advanced phrase to use, but because you used it incorrectly, you're gonna lose some points. So, how can we correct it? So basically, when you have two snapshots, two dates, and no data in between, what you can say that, so instead of saying throughout the period, you can say that car ownership increased from 65%, and we can add the dates as well, in 2010 to 78% in 2022. So you basically said from and to. Okay, and that's it. That's your correct sentence. Let's take a look at another example because it's very similar to this one. Okay, let's take a look at this example. I'm sure you're gonna love it. I'm loving it. Now, energy consumption gradually increased from 320 kilowatt in 2016 to 410 kilowatt in 2021. Now, Can you see what is wrong with this sentence? Okay, let's take a look at this example. Energy consumption. Oh no, I forgot about the title again. Sorry. Don't hate me. This is not, if you said it's energy consumption, no, that's the wrong answer. It's not what I want to hear from you. But anyway, yeah. How could I forget about the title 2 times? Anyway. Increase, there was an increase, 320, okay, 2016. Oh, we included the days. Wow, cool. Now, 410 and 2021. Okay. Everything seems okay, right? But this word is not right because, and I can see what happened here. So basically, as students, a student looks at this chart and they say, "Oh, that wasn't a significant increase. It was a small increase." But I don't want to use the word small. Okay, I want to use a fancy word. So they use the word gradually, which means a slow growth. Yeah, but there is a nuance. And the nuance is that without intermediate data, you cannot say that we don't know whether that was a gradual increase or a sudden increase. So it's exactly the same thing that happened in our previous example. So when we say gradually, again, we mean that it slowly, increased. And as we said before, we don't know that. So how can we correct this? Well, simply, if you remove this sentence, is correct. If you see that, if you want to say a small increase, but again, you can only say that when you have more context, because we don't know, okay, from 320 to 410, is that a lot? I don't know. So maybe there is something like that, and then we know that, okay, that comparing to this is nothing. So we can then say a slight increase. Increase, that's a verb. Slightly, we need to use an adverb. Energy consumption slightly increased from 320 kilowatt in 2016 to 410 kilowatt in 2021. Yay. Let's look at the next one. Okay, I also love this one, and this time we have a pie chart. So take a look at this example and let me know what is wrong with it. Okay, so the pie chart illustrates that education dominated with 35% of government spending. Okay, and yes, indeed, education received the largest share of 35%. Now, I kind of told you what was wrong with it, but yeah, okay, let's get straight into it. So this word is not correct in this specific context. When we talk about dominance, it's usually refer to competition. For example, in a pie chart, you might see a market share, and there are different businesses competing for customers. And if one business holds the largest market share, that means that they're dominating the market. Okay? So, but in this case, we talk about government spendings, government budget allocation. So there is no competition. So instead of saying dominated, we can, yeah, what can we do? Like, let's think. What is that? It's a share. Because it's the largest, we can say that education received the largest, that's a superlative, the largest, the biggest share with 35% of government spending. So the pie chart illustrates that education received the largest share with 35% of government spending. There you go. Now, before we look at our next example, I just want to say that it's the summertime and generally less people study during the summer. So I have more slots available. So if you're interested in me helping you to prepare for IELTS, then this is your chance. And if you want to learn during the summer. So anyway, I'm going to leave a form down below. So fill it if you're interested. If not, that's okay. So yeah, now let's take a look at the example. Now, the correlation between male and female participants showed that more women attended university in 2015. Now, and here's our bar chart, as always. Okay, you got 30 seconds. Now, what is wrong with this sentence? So, this word, correlation, and it actually, this example puts a smile on my face because at university, in our research module, even like this is the mistake that even native speakers make. We constantly were using the word correlation, and our tutor was always telling us, do not use the word correlation because correlation has a very specific meaning. And basically, the word correlation means that there is a relationship between two variables. So there is any relationship, well, not that kind of relationship between men and women. Okay, so when we talk about correlation, generally the correlation charts look like this. So there is like a little bubbles in there, and there is like this is variable x, this is variable y, and you just see where there's a lot of dots, and you see like, okay, if is the positive correlation or a negative correlation. Anyway, in IELTS, you will never ever have to discuss the correlation. So this word is not correct. And simply, when you see something like that, you can say the comparison. Because in IELTS, you always will be asked to compare something. That's one of the things that they want to make sure that you can do. So yeah, use this word instead of correlation. But if you want to learn marketing or data, then yeah, you'll have a great relationship with correlations and causations and all that kind of stuff. So let's take a look at another example. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up in style, and instead of just one sentence, I prepare for you 3 sentences, and you get only 30 seconds to let me know what is wrong with them. Now let's take a look at the first one. Education is the ultimate factor in economic development. Now, this word here is incorrect because yes, ultimate means important, but it means that it's the only important factor or it's the final factor. So if we want to say that education is important or is essential, that we can say is, instead of the, we say a fundamental. Fundamental. Education is a fundamental factor in economic development. Okay, number 2, reading books is vital for relaxation. Okay, vital, it refers to survival, so it doesn't fit this context here. So instead of saying vital, we can say is beneficial. Beneficial for relaxation. Basically, we're saying that reading is helpful. Now, the government conducted massive research on the topic. When we say massive, we generally refer to something big in physical size. Because here we talk about research, we want to say that basically they conducted an extensive research with lots of details. We can say that, I just said this word, conducted extensive, or comprehensive research. Okay, so, but not massive research. Okay, that's everything for today. Let me know in the comments how many questions you got right, and if you got all of them right, you can have my permission to put your glasses on. Now, this is my wife's glasses, and but okay, she never gonna find out because she doesn't watch my videos. If you haven't spotted all of the mistakes, then don't worry, it's not a big deal. At least you know what mistakes to avoid in your exam, and hopefully you'll learn something new today. If you like this video, you'll also like this one when I talked about a couple of grammar structures that will help with your writing. So, until the next time.